In a courtroom filled with quiet anticipation and rigid decorum, Officer Ronald Beck made a mistake he would never recover from. He saw a black woman standing at the edge of authority and assumed she didn't belong. She was dressed sharply, moved with intention, and carried a briefcase that looked too official for his comfort. It wasn't fear that compelled his actions, it was arrogance wrapped in prejudice. And what began as a moment of misplaced authority would spiral into a reckoning that would leave the justice system forever altered. Her name was Jordan Blake, and she wasn't just a federal agent, she was the lead investigator in a case designed to tear down the very corruption that had infected the city's law enforcement for years. But Beck didn't know that. Not yet. All he saw was a black woman with a badge he didn't believe and a confidence he wanted to shatter. He blocked her path. When she offered her credentials, he slapped them away. "You're not FBI," he spat, loud enough for everyone in the courtroom to hear. "That badge is fake. Let's not make this worse." He twisted her arm behind her back and forced her against the bench where witnesses usually stood, her cheek pressed to the polished wood. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the judge remained silent, his jaw tight, but his voice absent. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. Her silence was more cutting than words. Her eyes, locked with Beck's, burned with something far more dangerous than fear. It was certainty. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," she whispered. Beck laughed, tightening the cuffs. "Is that a threat?" No, it wasn't a threat. It was a promise. What the officer didn't realize was that Jordan had come prepared. Months of undercover work had led to this moment. She'd compiled recordings, documents, witness statements, all pointing to a network of officers falsifying reports, harassing minorities, and covering up their crimes. And Beck, he was one of them. A name circled in red on her file. She had evidence of his misconduct. He just didn't know he was about to be exposed by the woman he thought he could humiliate in his silence. The courtroom buzzed with a strange electricity. Murmurs grew louder. Phones discreetly recorded. Even those loyal to the old ways sensed a shift coming. Finally, the judge found his voice. "Officer Beck," he said, "she's on today's witness list." Beck didn't budge. "That's got to be a mistake. I know who's real and who's not." But the mistake wasn't Jordan's. When they finally released her from the cuffs, she walked to the stand. Unshaken. Immaculate. Her briefcase was retrieved, her files intact. Her voice, when she spoke, rang with precision and control. "For the last 7 months," she began, "I've been investigating a pattern of misconduct and racially motivated abuse within this city's police department. Today, I will present audio and visual evidence confirming widespread corruption, including falsified arrests and internal cover-ups." She didn't say Beck's name immediately. She didn't need to. The room already knew. But when she did say it, when she detailed his actions on record, his voice on the tape giving orders to fabricate reports, instructing others to find something to charge young black men with, it was over. His lawyer objected. The judge overruled. They played the tapes. The words were unmistakable. "Doesn't matter what he did. Book him. Make it stick." Laughter followed on the tape. Beck's laughter. Gasps filled the room. Jordan didn't gloat. She presented facts. Calm, composed, unstoppable. When the judge asked, "Is this the same officer who detained you this morning?" she answered without hesitation. "Yes, Your Honor. The very same." Beck's face drained of color. He leaned to his lawyer, frantic. It was too late. The evidence was irrefutable. Her documents, time-stamped. Her sources, verified. The USB drive she submitted had enough proof to indict not just Beck, but several others in a circle. The judge called for immediate detainment. Beck protested. "She's lying. She set me up." Jordan stood just close enough to be heard. "You thought you could silence me. But today, I speak for everyone you thought you'd buried." As Beck was led away, cuffed in the same steel he'd used to shame her, the courtroom didn't cheer. They didn't need to. The silence was louder than applause. In the weeks that followed, more revelations surfaced. Jordan's investigation uncovered additional crimes. Officers previously shielded by silence were now named in court. One, Officer Kevin Mars, resigned before his hearing. Another, Lieutenant Susan Riggs, was stripped of rank after evidence showed she destroyed case files. Jordan wasn't interested in fame. She declined interviews. She worked through the night, alongside an attorney named Camille Reyes Sharp, relentless and just as determined to crack the systemic silence that had ruled the department for decades. Together, they reopened cases, examined patterns, and pushed for oversight reforms. Jordan didn't ask for respect. She demanded accountability. And it came, not all at once and not cleanly. There were protests. There were threats. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a hero. But no one ignored her anymore. Even when she was summoned to Washington, questioned by internal affairs about her conduct, she never flinched. "I didn't break trust," she told the panel. "I revealed its absence." She was reassigned temporarily. They said it was for her safety. But she knew the truth. She'd rattled the wrong cages. And yet, she wasn't alone. A former partner of Beck's, Officer Miguel Salas, came forward. Quiet, trembling. He confessed everything. Share names, files, motives. "Why now?" Jordan had asked him. "Because my son asked me what I do for a living," Salas replied, tears in his eyes. And I couldn't look him in the eye. With Salas's cooperation, the investigation ballooned. It wasn't just one precinct. It wasn't just one city. Patterns emerged across counties, across state lines. Officers linked by tactics, cover-ups, and complicity. They called it the Blake Inquiry, and Jordan was asked to lead the task force. She said yes, not for the power, for the truth. As the nation watched, her work triggered resignations, indictments, and reforms. A new handbook was drafted. Her name appeared in the first chapter under a section titled Courage in Uniform. But none of it compared to a letter she received months later. No return address, just a few lines in neat handwriting. "I remember you from Birmingham. You were that little girl with the fire in her eyes. You made it. I didn't, but I'm glad one of us did." It was signed simply LJ. She cried that night, not for herself, but for the countless others who never got their day in court, whose stories would never be heard, whose truths had been buried beneath badges and bureaucracy. She kept that letter beside her, badge, two symbols of what had been and what was still possible. In the years that followed, she remained vigilant. New cases, new names, new resistance. But Jordan Blake kept showing up, not because she was fearless, but because she had learned that fear only wins when you stop showing up. And she wasn't going anywhere.